All right, Jules, let's delve a little bit more into Darwin Nunez and what we know. I mean, one of the first things that comes to mind, and I haven't done this, I think somebody should do this, I might go back and do it, is obviously you talked about his performances in the Champions League, sort of showing this great promise. And I think when we look at players, there's so many different angles, right? You can look at numbers, both analytics and just appearances and goals. You can look at what the player is. And when you look at somebody like Darwin Nunez, you see somebody who is, I'm struck by how strong he is physically. So. He's got height, he's got a lot of work rate, and he seems to make good decisions. And these are things that Klopp obviously values. Yeah. And he's quick at 6'2", maybe not the first step, but he's got that kind of acceleration, that progression as we call it. That said, he scored a ton of goals at Almeria. I think in some ways, maybe that's slightly more significant or as significant as the goals he scored for Benfica. Yeah. Because of course, 2 years ago at Benfica, he only scored 6 goals. Yeah. And he had injuries, but he still got into 20-odd games. This past season, I think he started 24 games, came off the bench 6 times, scored a lot of goals. But again, in the Portuguese league, I wonder how do those goals translate to the Premier League?
Yeah, it would be very interesting to see how long it takes to adapt. I mean, the physical qualities that he has should help him, massively to come to England and be strong and be.
Well, we say that, right? Romelu Lukaku has a lot of physical qualities too.
Yeah, but he's got a lot of goals in the Premier League.
No, but not this past season.
Well, okay, yeah, but
what I'm saying is it can work both ways, right? If I'm playing for Benfica in Portugal and I'm playing Portimonense or whatever, right? And I can physically dominate when I play in the Premier League, where not just is the general quality higher, but generally you get more physicality, or you can get more physicality from defenders, refereed a little bit differently. I'm not sure that's something you can necessarily rely on.
No, I see what you mean. But I do think that it's better to come in this country and have that kind of qualities anyway. Then I think he's an incredible finisher. I really think that he's getting better and better and better. But the numbers in terms of expected goals, touches in the box were always high, even in the Spanish second division. So on that level, I don't think there would be a problem.
And he was only 20 when he was there, by the way.
Yeah,
which
really
I think
young.
Is also worth
and
remembering.
To be fair, the 3 seasons he had in South America were not the most convincing because, again, there was a few injuries. It was Peñarol, I think, was a good schooling for him, but it was not the finished article, for example, when he moved to Europe completely. And if you look at, he's very Cavani-esque and Uruguayan-esque in the way he plays. He runs a lot. He loves the fighting spirit. He never gives up, the pressing, all of that. This is great. This is good for Klopp. There's no problem. Yeah. However, there's still a big difference, you're right, in terms of transition from Benfica and the way they played, and then going into a club system in the Premier League, playing 55 games minimum a season and having all that intensity, all that running to do without the ball, with the ball, being so intelligent and so clever the way you play, because in that Liverpool team, the one thing you have to have is super intelligence. Yeah. And I think this will be very interesting to see how he adapts to it.
And I wouldn't be surprised if Liverpool actually try to bring him along slowly. And I know that's not easy to do because you have a big price tag, but I think it kind of makes sense because it is a really big transition stylistically. I mean, I was on the show last night and they're talking, now the big number 9 center forward that they wanted. And I'm like, yeah, he can become that. I'm not sure Klopp sees him that way from day one.
No, maybe not.
I think if I'm Klopp, I have another year of Firmino, and if he gets back to full fitness, and he's going to have obviously the motivation of the World Cup, not that he needs more motivation, but I think this is a year where if Mane goes, and we'll get to Mane in a second, it's going to be even more important to have a center forward with Firmino-like qualities if you want to, ease the transition. Somebody with that intelligence, rather than somebody thrown into the deep end, where Darwin Nunez, he goes in there and then he gets lumps kicked out of him at the beginning. He has to react. Maybe he goes a couple of days without scoring. I'm not saying he can't do it. Maybe he will. But you have to allow for that.
But don't you think that the Darwin signing is an evolution of this Liverpool team? a bit like the Thiago Alcantara signing was, and this is different because he's much younger, but in the sense that it will help you playing in a different way than the Liverpool when Firmino had such a key role to play. And I would not be surprised if Firmino could stay. He's got another year left on his contract, but not to play regularly, because now with Nunez, you transitioning to something a bit different, maybe even more direct maybe than the verticality that you had before, maybe a bit more physical than what you had before, instead of having a Firmino there who will be like before, will be like a false number 9 or like a number 10 if you want, and then you play Salah and Jota on each side of him to benefit from his movement, which is very different to Nunez. So it would be strange to have Firmino for 6 months and then trying to bring Nunez in a team that has played with a Firmino number 9 for 6 months. Do you see what I mean?
I take your point. Equally, there's different ways to learn, right? There's different ways to transition. You could also make the point that if I'm playing in a game and I give the opposition 45 minutes of Firmino.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I bring this dude on with his
True.
physicality and his pace. It's going to be pretty jarring
No, that's true.
For a defender.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN+.